A decade after 9/11, the vision of what will stand at Manhattan's ground zero is starting to become a reality. And while the Twin Towers will never truly be replaced, Tracy Smith shows us what future generations will have to look up to.
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane...
It was the last thing any of us expected.
We have no idea how many were on board or what the extent of the injuries are right now.
Architect David Childs watched it all from his office window.
Everything was in flame and smoke coming out of the buildings. And a young man was standing there at the window, and he turned to me with tears coming down his face and said, "Will it fall over?" And I immediately said no. Because in the history of steel construction buildings, none has ever fallen over from an event like this, or from a great fire.
Almost from the moment the towers fell, the World Trade Center site was caught up in an emotional tug-of-war. Some wanted the sacred ground left alone, but developers saw a chance to build something taller, safer, better than what was there before.
One of the most dramatic events in New York City in the 1960s was the construction of the World Trade Center.
When it was finished in the 1970s, the original World Trade Center was, to many, nothing more than a huge and expensive eyesore. The complex displaced an entire neighborhood in Lower Manhattan and seemed out of scale. Among New Yorkers, the joke was that the gargantuan Twin Towers were actually the boxes that the Chrysler and Empire State Buildings came in.
In fact, no architects liked it. It was not a very great building. And the plaza was awful. Cold, blank, dreary, unfriendly. Couldn't get there. All the streets had been ripped out.
For the rebuild, more than 5,000 designs were submitted. And in 2003, architect Daniel Libeskind's plan for a memorial and office complex was chosen.
Officials in New York unveiled the latest, what's supposed to be final design for the...
Libeskind's centerpiece building, temporarily dubbed the Freedom Tower, would rise 1,776 feet, a nod to Independence Day, with an offset spire that echoed the Statue of Liberty.
And this is only 4,000 already.
Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, the architecture firm behind some of the tallest towers on Earth, was brought in. SOM's David Childs kept the 1,776-foot height, but changed the tower's shape.
I wanted to do a building like an obelisk that would be a real marker, a sculptural piece that was that said, this is where this great tragedy occurred. Any fifth grade student can go to Washington and she can come back and she'll draw the Washington Monument. Anybody can draw the Washington Monument. The same way I think will be true here.
And that was important to you, that a fifth grade girl could go home and draw this building?
Yes, in the sense that it would be an iconic building which would be the marker for that event and this city.
In 2006, the building commenced. The work isn't going quite as fast as in this Ox Blue construction camera's time-lapse, but the pace is still dizzying.
It moves at a floor a week, which in our world is incredibly fast.
SOM's Kenneth Lewis and TJ Gottesdiener are managing the project.
A floor a week?
A floor a week.
How do you manage that?
Well,
Fortunately, the contractor does that.
How high up are we going?
We're going to go to 74, 75. We're probably 900,000 feet up at that point. It'll be up there. You'll see the world.
Chris Ward, who runs the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, gave us a tour from the ground up.
You can see the Empire State Building right there. It's kind of cool to be eye level with it.
Yeah, amazing.
But speaking of the Empire State Building, you've heard the gripe that only took a little bit more than a year to build.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. You know, look at it. It was built in the 30s. OSHA regulations, safety, security, wasn't really heard of. People died building that tower. This isn't like just building on any other block in New York City. This is building on the most complicated public works project in the entire country.
It's complicated, all right. One World Trade has been called the #1 terrorist target, so its 186-foot base has no windows and is massive enough to shrug off a truck bomb.
These columns are 60 feet long. Each one weighs 70 tons.
70 tons.
70 tons. That's a car every foot when you think about the thickness and weight of it.
The building itself will be close to the same height as the old towers, but the actual construction is nothing like the original.
The exterior walls were designed to bear much of the weight of the towers, as well as all of the wind loads.
While the Twin Towers were basically hollow steel tubes, the new building is built around a massive spine of reinforced concrete. The stairways are 20% wider and pressurized to keep smoke out. Wrapped in shatterproof glass, the new tower is a $3.2 billion sky-high fortress designed to survive the unthinkable.
When you talk about those higher floors, you can't help but think about, could there be another plane attack? Is this building prepared for that?
Absolutely. What you see is a beautiful building, but what's inside that skin is a building which is in direct response to that terrible day.
That could withstand a plane hitting it?
747 fully loaded with fuel.
How can you assure people that they can go to work in this building and feel secure? Because it will be a target.
If I had the opportunity and we had the ability to pay the rent, I would be happy and delighted to move our offices into that building. I'd
You'd
be
feel
proud,
completely secure.
completely proud and safe and secure. And I would be absolutely convinced that my son or children would be safe in that building too.
But when the new One World Trade Center is finally finished, maybe as early as 2013, the feature most people remember might not be the shatterproof glass or bomb-proof steel, but a light at the top of the spire, flashing a message every night from hallowed ground, both welcoming and defiant.
It will be like a great lighthouse on the port, on the ocean, welcoming people, telling them in a very broad way from this laser beacon going out, New York, New York.